Good evening. I would like to call to order this Anoka-Hennepin School Board meeting for today, December 8th, 2025. Please join the board in pledging our allegiance. All right, our first order of business is to approve the board agenda. Is there a motion to approve the board agenda as presented? Thank you, Director Simon. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Langenfeld. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, will all those in favor say aye? Aye. Any opposed say nay. With 6 in favor and 0 opposed, the agenda is approved. So members, our next order of business is recognitions with item 4A, Innovative Project Award for Adventures Plus. Welcome Michelle Trelstad, Director of Community Education, Tiffany Weeks, Community Education Program Supervisor, and Julie Morris, Adventure Plus Site Coordinator.
Good evening, co-chairs Arco DeShane, Superintendent McIntyre, and members of the board. I'm here tonight to recognize Julie Morris from our Adventures Plus School-Age Childcare Program for receiving the Minnesota Community Education Association 2025 Project Award for School-Age Care Hybrid Social Worker Internship Program. That's a mouthful. The hybrid social work program is a partnership between Anoka-Hennepin Community Education School Age Care and Anoka-Hennepin Schools and the district social workers. The internship program exists to create important training opportunities for our college students that are majoring in social work and but as a bonus to address our ongoing staffing issues that we've had in Adventures Plus. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Julie Morris, who spearheaded the program, to give you more information.
Hello. In 2018, we were asked by our supervisor, Monica-Hellman at the time, for some ideas around staffing shortages, and I remembered at my site that I worked at the time, Rum River Elementary, that we worked a lot with our social worker on a daily basis because we shared a lot of children at Adventures Plus and social work. So there was born the idea of the school-age care hybrid social work interns. As Michelle said, they're college students pursuing their master's or bachelor's degree, so it's either or. We are a part of the internship interview process. And it's been just a wonderful experience for the students and the staff. Through Adventures Plus, they do their traditional school social work, knowledge and skill development, and they usually come out with a goal. They've had a gamut of goals that they want to accomplish while they're going to school, and they've always ended up working for us longer than intended. I think they really enjoy our program. So some we have for one semester and some we have for a whole year and into the summer. The hybrid social work program is a win-win for both Adventures Plus and the school district. The interns have the opportunity to connect and interact with children in a social recreational environment, giving wonderful experiential learning opportunities to both the interns and the youth enrolled in Adventures Plus program, while at the same time filling the gaps at the sites that are short-staffed and teaching the ever-important social emotional skills to the Adventures Plus students. So these enthusiastic college students share their knowledge and experiences with the younger generation while pursuing their academic social work goals. All around, it's just been a positive community impact. So thank you, Social Work Department for Anoka-Hennepin for allowing us to create this partnership and this opportunity for so many learners for the Anoka-Hennepin students. I wanted to thank Michelle Trelstad. She's been there since the beginning, the Executive Director of Community Ed, Tiffany Weeks, the A+ Program Supervisor. Also, I wanted to mention Julie Buffo. She is a rock star. She's in charge of all these internships and coordinates them with the college with us. She is the school social work and department co-lead Compass program, who also organizes everything else social work. Candy King back here in the black and white sweater. She's our staffing program coordinator and really helps us with all the legwork of hiring them all through Adventures Plus. And then my supervisor, Lynette Hess, our inclusion program coordinator, she always assists in the interview processes in the beginning. And it's just been really successful, and we're really excited that it keeps going.
This is something that Julie has been really passionate about, so I also want to thank Julie for pushing this forward and really making this what it is. So
Thank you.
thank you.
I guess that's gonna be a show.
Yeah. If we're gonna do the full group, let's come on over here. Yeah. Okay, there's more room for everyone. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm trying to hide it.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you and congratulations. Our next recognition is 4B Youth in Music Class A State Champions. Outstanding Color Guard and Outstanding Visual Awards. Welcome Dr. Annette Ziegler, Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Schools, John Pena, Coon Rapids High School Principal, Jeff Thompson, Coon Rapids High School Activities Director, and Ryan Palmer, Coon Rapids High School Music Teacher.
Good evening, co-chairs Duchesne and Arco, as well as Superintendent McIntyre and the rest of the school board. It is with great privilege and honor to introduce your Coon Rapids state champions this year in our marching band competition. Before I introduce you to the true magic and talent, I want to thank you on behalf of a longtime employee in the Anoka-Hennepin School District for your commitment to student activities, particularly the arts. This is a byproduct of what that looks like. I cannot tell you the pride that I take starting in July when these young students enter the field to begin practicing and the amount of countless hours that they put in. It's lucky when we have such talented staff members like our marching band director, Ryan Palmer, but it's also because of this army of people you see behind you. Our families are exceptional, and a lot of them are responsible for making this possible. They give up countless hours in order to make this possible. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to the star of the evening, Mr. Ryan Palmer.
Good evening, members of the board, and thank you for the invitation to share and celebrate with you tonight. My name is Ryan Palmer. I am the Director of Bands at Coon Rapids High School, and I am proud to share that for the first time in its history, the Coon Rapids Marching Band is the Minnesota State Champions for Class A. I was here just about a month ago to celebrate the best communities in music education, and in thinking about what I wanted to share tonight, I think it's important to point out that the students that you're about to meet, their names are going to be read, and they're going to come into this room. They are the distillation of everything that is great about music education in our district, and they represent all of the positive values that I shared with you about a month ago when I was at this table. They work hard, they sweat, they shiver. And we don't actually start in July. We start in April. And so for about half of the school year, these kids are working far above and beyond to demonstrate their skills and grow their knowledge and become what I think is truly the best version of themselves. And that's all done through marching band, through music education. And like Mr. Thompson just talked about, this championship right here was not earned by just the students you're going to meet, but also by the parent volunteers, many of whom are sitting behind me, the band booster board, the marching band staff, and the CRHS admin team, who have been incredibly supportive of everything I ask for to help support these students. It is through all of their support and hard work that together we have earned this award. So congratulations to the Coon Rapids Marching Band.
Are you introducing me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to introduce our drum major, Natalie Wendling, who is going to be reading the words of the students as they come in.
Madeline Ajoga. Caden Anderson. Emily Anderson. Eman Counts. Jason Flowers. Robert Gerard. Nathan Holland. Nicholas Holland. Riley Hansen. Courtney Hare. James Heggie. Chase Hendrickson. Ethan Hofstad. Rain Hoopman. Brady Hudak. Rebecca Imafidon. Aiden Jacoby. Tenzin Jordan. Ada Kiauchenholm. Maddie Kuehl. Reese Larson Matella. Edison Lee. Isabella Lemieux. Andrew Linzo. Samuel Linzo. Nathaniel Lowinger. Lillian Matthews. Adrian Metzler. Cameron Metzler. Liliana Nelson. Emmeline Nimmerfro. Grady Nitschke. Ayo Olawori. Braden Olson. James Olson. Adam Palmer. Sarah Ramos. Feliciana Santiago DeFord. Amaya Slattery. Aubrey Snyder. Logan Stroman. Tito Toomby. Hannah Van Geest. Cheyenne Van Mersbergen. Avril Velasco Martinez. Anthony Velasquez. Cicely Williams. Natalie Wendling.
The superintendent had a comment he wanted to make.
Thank you, guys.
Board members, as they're leaving, just an observation. At a football game in September, I was on the sidelines with Mr. Thompson and Mr. Pena in September, and they were telling me as halftime show started, he goes, "You wouldn't believe how hard this group has worked this summer through this fall to get to this point in the year," and this was September. And for them to now, achieve a state title, it's sure an example of hard work, attitude, and effort, discipline, all those things. So just congratulations to tremendous effort, and it's an example of tremendous growth when you put your mind to something. So congratulations to Coon Rapids.
Yes, congratulations. All right, our next agenda item is Communication and Public Relations, item 5A, Canvas Election Results Resolution, Election District 6. Welcome Jim Skelly, Executive Director of Communication and Public Relations, and Thomas Hunt, Anoka County Elections Manager.
Thank you, Co-Chair Arco, members of the school board. As you recall, the board took action to canvass election results at a November 10th meeting, and those results was for District 6 were challenged, and a recount was held. And Tom Hunt, who's the elections manager from Anoka County, was the administrator of that recount, and he can take it from here.
Yep, thank you, members of the board. It's hard to follow that, but yeah, so after I was here last, when we certified the results of the election, we did have a candidate request a recount for the election District 6 race. And we did hold that recount at the Anoka County Government Center. Both candidates were there, and it was a full hand count of all of the ballots that were cast at the election. And the results of that recount are, I believe, in front of you, and they did not change at all. So tonight is just to certify the now official results of that recount. And if you have any questions, as always, I'm happy to answer anything you need.
Any questions from board members? All right. If not, members, before us is a resolution to accept the Canvas election resolution results. Election District 6, as presented on Appendix A. Hearing no request for discussion, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Simon votes aye. Hochman.
Aye.
Audette.
Aye.
Langenfeld.
Aye.
DeShane.
Aye.
Arco.
Aye. With 6 in favor and 0 opposed, the resolution is adopted. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Here they are.
All right, members, our next order of business is item 6, Finance, and item 6A, our Truth in Taxation public hearing. Welcome Michelle Vargas, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening, Chair Arco, Superintendent McIntyre, members of the board. Tonight's presentation is our Truth in Taxation public hearing required by state law. Tonight, during this public meeting, we will talk about, we'll start with, it's required to be between the dates of November 25th and December 29th at 6 p.m. or later, which is tonight, during a scheduled regular meeting. We will allow for public comments after the presentation, and then come back to adopt the final levy. As part of the presentation, we are required to talk about the current budget, although this tax levy does not fund the current year budget. It's a timing thing, and then the proposed tax levy. So within the hearing, we'll talk about the background information on school funding, the district budget as required, the proposed tax levy for taxes payable in 2026, and then we'll allow for public comment. So a uniform systems of public schools, it is the legislature's requirement to provide provisions by taxation to fund it as part of our Minnesota Constitution. The results of that, it is a highly regulated. The formulas are set by the state, determine revenue, and most of them are based on pupil units, tax policies for local schools, and then maximum authorized property tax levies. Districts can levy less, but they cannot levy more than is authorized by the state or by voters in November. We did not have anything in November, so nothing is new. States also authorize boards to submit referendums for operating and capital needs to voters for approval. This is just basic information on our current general education formula, going back from 2003 to 2026. The current fiscal year is an increase of 2.75. The 24-25 was at 2%. We do now have the formula linked to the CPI. If it was linked to inflation that entire time, we would be at an amount of $8,901 versus the current $74.81. Another area of funding in the state is our underfunding of special education. Currently, in FY23, we are underfunded statewide by $726 million. Even though there has been additional cross-subsidy aid, it is still projected to be underfunded by $455 million in fiscal year 2027. So the primary funding options to bridge that gap is for budgets and program cuts or districts to go out for an approved referendum. This is just a comparison of the school district's current referendum compared to some other districts that are either similar in size, demographics, or proximity. Anoka-Hennepin's current referendum in the current fiscal year is $1,154. There are two components to that referendum. One goes through fiscal year 2028. That was part of the Fit for the Future in 2017. And then the other one, and I'm 2034 or 5, I don't have that one offhand, was just the one that was renewed in fiscal year 21, a year early. But this just shows a comparison per pupil unit of some other districts near us or similar size. The budget component of the Truth in Taxation hearing is required to talk about the current year budget. This tax levy is actually for the 26-27 budget, which will be adopted by June 30th of 2026. It talks about the district's funds, which include our general fund, our food service fund, community service fund, building construction, debt service, internal service, OPEB, either irrevocable trust or OPEB debt service. So this slide, and I'll have you focus on the actual budget slide, this shows our 24-25 actual expenditures and revenue. On the right side is the adopted current budget of $750 million for our revenues and $780 million in expenditures. That is the current budget that we've been working on. That was adopted June 30th, 2025. And the deficit within that budget and the items we've been talking about for budget reductions is then projected for into fiscal year 27, which this tax levy is about. Moving into our revenue, the current year revenue, total revenue is $750 million. The majority of that revenue is the general fund. That is where our K-12 operations consist. It's 90% of what we do. Our general fund revenue at $675 million. This shows where our funds come from, and as you can see, the majority of our funds come from the state, 76, almost 77%. As you can see, that is why we rely very heavily on state funding. We are very involved in the legislature and advocating for funding because of this. Our federal funds are 2%. We are now down back to kind of what we've averaged over the years prior to COVID of about $13 million annually in federal funds. Our local funds, $133 million. The majority of that is property taxes. That's the $116 million of that. And then there's fees, fees collected and other local revenues. And then our other for $10 million. That is a transfer. The majority of it has to do with the transfer and transfer out that we do for the English learners cross-subsidy. It's not additional revenue per se. On the general fund expenditure side, looking at it by areas of expense, that $700 million, you can see that we are 77%, so close to 80% people. That's going to be your benefits and salaries. As we had a large increase in our transportation contract, that's kind of Purchase services has grown a little bit more with that $10 million increase this year just in transportation and purchase services, the next largest area of our expenditures. When you look at by program level for our budget, the $700 million, you can see on the left-hand side of this graph are our educational, start at the bottom, the regular instruction, $304 million, vocational instruction, our special ed instruction at $157 million, instructional support, professional development, those type of items are in there, and pupil services, which would include the transportation budget. As you can see, administration, $14 million, 2%, district support services, which would be finance, HR, legal, student accounting, are also 2% of the general fund budget. So moving on to the actual tax levy. A change in tax levy does not determine a change in budget necessarily. The tax levy is based on state-determined allowances. Some increases in tax levies are neutral. Sometimes it is a calculation of a certain dollar amount, and depending on our tax base, the equalization aid changes. So sometimes it is just a shift between the two. Most of them are all based on our pupil units, from that which changes it. But our expenditure budget is limited by the state revenue formulas and our voter approved. An increase in school taxes does not always correlate to an equal increase in budget. This slide just shows a comparison of our taxes payable 2025, our current one, on an average home of about $400,000 in the district. That shows Anoka-Hennepin's, a $400,000 home currently has $1,315 in taxes for the school district. So that would be all of the state formulas, the voter approved, which would be referendum, tax levy, and debt. All of those together, and that's a comparison then for those same districts that we looked at referendum, just to give a comparison, which these are the different values that go into it, and then your different tax bases all have an effect on what a parcel pays for their taxes for school district. The differences in the levy cycles makes it very confusing between a school district and the cities and counties. So a school district, we're all the taxes are levied calendar year, but as we are levying and adopting this in December, it is for fiscal year 27, which will start in July. Cities and counties, they set a budget for next calendar year, then they set a tax rate, and that's what they're proving their budget based on their tax rate, because they align with each other. So it's very different. School district, you're given what the revenue will be based on the different formulas, and cities and counties have much more leverage to build a budget and then set a tax rate. This is just a sample of a parcel that all tax payers, property payers would receive. As you can see, there's many different jurisdictions that are going to show up on there. What we are talking about tonight is only school district taxes, just that portion of it. We have no control over any of the other areas that show up on the bottom line of any parcel owner's taxes. So for school district property taxes, each district is limited to the authority to levy taxes. MDE, the Minnesota Department of Education, calculates all of our levy limits based on either state law or voter approval. Within the process, there are many steps. The steps that we are at tonight is step 5, where now you are setting the levy. We've already received the preliminary. You approved that in September. Tonight, you are setting that. After that is approved, then the county auditor will finalize and start collecting. They collect all the taxes and then distribute it to all the different municipalities and school districts. So this is just our timeline. It should say levy 24 payable 2020, levy 25 payable 2026. That is a typo. On September 8th, you approved the MDE preliminary, or it was put out on September 28th, the MDE tax calculation. On September 22nd, you approved the proposed amounts. Then in mid-November, all of the tax statements went out. So tonight, this is our public hearing, and then following the hearing, we will allow for public comment if anybody wants to come up and speak, and then we will certify the final amounts. As we look at the overview of the proposed tax levy, our 2026 tax levy is a decrease of 2.7 million or 1.97%. This decrease is based on the formulas. It isn't something that you as a board can change. It's what's handed to us from that based on pupil units. The majority has to do with the reduction of pupil units, which many of the formulas are based on. So the changes by level category and reasons for any major increases are included on the following slides as required. This is the overall based on funds and categories within our tax levy. You can see within the general fund, the majority of the reduction is there at 2.56 million or 2.18%. The majority of our reduction, as you can see, is in prior year adjustments, and we'll go into these. But again, when we are estimating in fiscal year 24 for 25 and 26, we were on an increase at that point in time. When we actually had an October 1 last, not just this past October, but a year ago, much lower than what we expected, how that extrapolated out was over 800 pupil unit change. So from what we levied last year to what actually was in the estimates this year, that's what's making that large change when you have that for year $1,154 a referendum. You can also see that we're decreasing slightly in community ed at 2%, 102,000. Our debt service is always based on our actual debt payments plus 105%. Anytime that 105% calculation, if there's more than 105 in your fund balance, that is debt excess and they pull it back. So the only thing that would change, the majority of our debt payments are very flat. It was all planned that way. When you see a change, it's going to be based on debt excess. Also at the bottom, it shows the portion of our categories between voter approved at 66 million and then other, which are all state categories, 69 million. So it's almost equal between the two of what is voter approved and what is based on just straight the state categories. So looking at the major changes, our general fund voter approved operating referendum is a $331,000 increase. This is offset by the 800 adjusted pupil units. So we have our voter referendums increase based on CPI. That CPI was 2.37% for next year is what it was based on. But then it was offset by the reduction in the estimate for the pupil units for a year-over-year increase. Our long-term facilities maintenance is a decrease of $513,000. This is due to, again, the adjusted pupil units. It's a per pupil unit formula. And there was also an adjustment of shifting some of the revenue to state aid as it's based on the state's average adjusted net tax capacity for the equalization factor, and that increased. So it increased the revenue that we receive in state aid versus levy. The largest area, as I was speaking to earlier, is in our prior year adjustments. So for the local optional revenue at $724 a student and our $1,100 in referendum, an adjustment for that 890 some adjusted pupil units is the majority of the 1.8 million reduction to catch that up. Other factors that impact individual taxpayers' school taxes could be a change in your individual property. That, as your property goes up, your taxes, if taxes remain the same, you're going to get a larger portion of the tax base. Total tax, our value of the property of the entire district, if all taxes stay the same and the whole value went up of our tax base, there's going to be a reduction for people because there's more to spread it on. So increases and decreases in levy amounts caused by changes in funding formulas, local needs, and voter-approved referendums are other factors that are in there. So as our referendum increases with CPI, that's going to happen. The next slide is just an example to look at. Next slide, please. Two properties. So if you start with two properties, if, say, all we were levying was $500, and both properties were $100,000, they would share the $250 each. If the next year one went up to 110,000 and one went up to 125,000, that same $500,000 would reduce the $110,000 house by $16 and increase the 125,000. Just shows that all of these things have an effect on the total base and your individual change. So there's many different factors that can go into your individual impact. Next slides, we have 4-year comparison that shows kind of the 4 years of our last levies and the values. Examples are going to show where there's no change, and then we have examples where it shows 10.8% increase, which was basically using the average increase in our referendum market value of the district. The actual changes in value may vary less or more for any parcel. Not everybody's home is the same, and it's intended just to be a fair representation of what happens in school district properties. We are using, for some of the commercial industrial on the next slide, we're using the city of Coon Rapids fiscal disparities change values depending on how they happen in each municipality. And they're for preliminary estimates. Final amounts can change slightly. It's based on what they have now, and these estimates were prepared by Ellers for us. So as you can see, we are 80% residential homestead, so the different columns that you can show going across all the values of your estimated market value, and you look from 2023 all the way to 2026, the changes from 2023 to 26 are all negatives in total. 25 to 26 are all negatives in total with their 1.9. If your value did not change, if your value stayed exactly the same. How many of it works out that way? Probably not, but everybody's is different. So this is just showing if no values changed at all parcels in our district would see a decrease. This one shows our home values. So a $250,000 home with no change shows what they're paying in 2023 through our estimate for 2026. So you can see just the value as it goes down for each year. A $350,000 home, the same, starting at $1,213, and then in 2026, the estimate is $1,081.
I have a quick question on that.
Sure.
So is that decrease then from year to year, is it a result of like a combination of more houses being added, but population of students declining, or like, why does it actually decrease from year to year?
So we've had a decline in our levy for 2 years. That's part of it, and part of it is the growth. That we've seen it, yeah, we've had, I mean, there were double-digit increase, I don't remember all the way back. It's, overall, we've had 10%. The one amount that they were using, and the next slides is a 6% increase from 2023 to 24, then a 1.7, and then another 2.3. So it's kind of looking at, so our tax base has increased. There were larger, I think before that, increases were more double-digit, but it's been almost in the kind of CPI range with the 6% and that. So yes, as our tax base gets bigger and your value doesn't change, you're going to see lower, as long as we're levying about the same.
So if I'm understanding it, so because the tax base increases, but the levy amount stayed the same, it's spread across more
Yes.
households essentially?
Yep.
And then, okay, that makes sense.
Yep. So there's 5 of us paying and now there's 6 of us paying. You add those other houses and that, you can spread a little bit more. Yep. Looking at the $500,000 home and a $750,000 home, you're going to see the same, the changes from 2023 to 2026 with no change in property value. The next slides look at a cumulative change that we were talking about, 6% the first year, 1.5%, and then 3% were the amounts used. So you can see, although they made a one up when there was a 6% increase, they came down the next year and then down again from based on our levy. So with those changes, and that's what generally what will show is if you didn't have an increase of more than 3%, you're probably not going to see an increase. It all depends on where that average falls once we see the full amount. But with both of these, you can see there was a slight increase in 2024 when values went up 6. So that 6% would have been higher than our overall increase, and then dropping down after that. And then just showing for the $500,000 house and the $750,000 house, you can see again, they're going to go up and then come down as we've seen the decline in our levy. Another requirement of tonight's is to mention the different credit refunds that can be found on the Minnesota Department of Revenue. There's a homestead credit refund. There's a special property tax refund. There's a senior citizen property tax deferral. And just talks about if you itemize, so please look for these on Minnesota Department of Revenue or contact your tax preparer. So our next steps is to open it up for public comment. I'll open it up for questions from you first before we do that, and then we can open it up for public comment. After that, I will come back for us to do the certification.
Any questions or comments from board members? Director Langenfeld.
I just want to thank you, Michelle, and your team for putting together such a clear explanation of this entire process. The school taxes are always very confusing, and to walk it through and give some really specific examples, I think are very, very helpful if it isn't something you're familiar with and working with each and every day. So thanks for that. I appreciate it, especially the explanation of levy changes. I think people always want to know what happened, so thanks for that.
Any other comments from board members? Otherwise, I have a comment. So thank you as well for the great presentation. So I just want to speak a little bit to the idea of just kind of our tax levy and just how all of this works in general, because I have before me, and we all got one of these in the mail, our tax statement, depending on where you live. Mine is from Anoka County, and it just lists on the back all of the taxing authorities. In my case, it's every city and school district, and of course the county in Anoka County. And it is unique in that Anoka-Hennepin is the only one where the percent change went down instead of increased. And I just wanted to comment on that because I know there have often been questions on if we should go out for referendum. Of course, we haven't done that as of yet. And so one of the problems that has kind of, or is beginning to impact the school district that the superintendent has spoken to in the past is the idea of declining enrollment. So if we have less students, we're simply going to get less taxpayer dollars. It's that simple. And that is a problem, actually. And as it turns out, it looks like we've even been increasing households while simultaneously decreasing students, which I personally think that's sad. Kids are wonderful, but it's just the reality of the situation. And so Director Langenfeld and I, over the weekend, we got to go to the MSBA Delegate Assembly where there was a guest speaker, Dr. Lawrence R. Jacobs, who is one of the leading political analysts and a nationally recognized scholar on elections, governance, and public policy. He gave a very fascinating speech, just kind of the state on politics in general, both at a national level all the way down to a state level. And two things kind of jumped out that I think are highly applicable here. The first one is the kind of nationalization of all politics. Every issue is just kind of all encumbering now, like anything happening at the national level, it just feels like it applies to everything. So it's just a very noisy way to deal with politics now that we live in the age of social media and whatnot. And so there's been a kind of just this shift where we used to distinguish state and local politics from national politics, and that's happening less and less. And then if you couple that with the fact that the other thing he mentioned was the number one issue for just American citizens in general right now, and it wasn't close, is economic considerations, specifically cost of living. There's all the other hot button political issues in there, but cost of living is the number one. And so the reason I want to mention this is because I am unique on this board, I believe, in that I am a member of the millennial generation. Of course, after me comes Gen Z, and then I believe it's Gen Alpha after that. And I've heard it stated that not me, I will say, I'll caveat this, I'm very blessed in the situation I have, so I'm not complaining or anything, but millennials in general and kind of Gen Z are going to be the first generation that tragically have it worse off than their parents have had it in American history, is my understanding. And so you couple that with the fact, and I can speak to this personally because I know countless friends and just people I know in my generation that simply don't want to have kids anymore, which actually is a problem impacting this district. And they don't want to have kids the number one reason is they can't afford living, and specifically, they cannot afford a house. Because the average, the average price of a house, it's higher, but I want to say it's at least $300,000 at this point, kind of in my area, I guess, in Blaine, but I'm fairly certain it's even higher than that. So just to get an entry-level house, so to speak, it's unobtainable for a lot of people. And so that leads to, unfortunately, them never really thinking that they have the option to have kids. And so a lot of millennials are just choosing not to have kids now. And so the reason I bring this up is because while it is true, and I will be the first to state this, I think we absolutely should have well-funded public schools, and I want a healthy, thriving public school system. Every decision that we make comes with a cost. It comes as a trade-off. And we're at a point, kind of going back to what I was saying about that speaker, Lawrence Jacobs, and how he mentioned politics in general, where if you zoom out and see the bigger picture, where right now the number one issue to pretty much every American is economics. And at a national level, we have somewhere around $38 trillion of debt, essentially an unfathomable and unpayable amount of money that is crippling the economy. And then at the state level, even the New York Times is now covering that apparently Minnesota is like fraud capital USA. So well done, the state of Minnesota, I guess. The notion that we are now going to ask the public for more money comes on the heels of all of that context. And I think now more than ever, it is extremely important, as I think we are doing a good job doing, but it's extremely important that we don't just, spend money, but that we can show the work that the money that we have is being spent exceptionally well. Because again, now more than ever, people are quite literally choosing not to have kids because they can't afford to live. And so the notion of going and asking them for additional money, ironically, to educate kids that I guess millennials are now just not going to have, by increasing their taxes in houses that they're now not going to buy because they can't afford. There's kind of a generational shift taking place. And again, while I stand by, I want to fully fund the public school to the extent that we can and to the extent that the taxpayers want to. But we have to be more mindful now than ever before with what we do with the taxpayers' money and realize that if they're getting squeezed, we need to be very mindful of that as well. So I just want to throw that out there. I think it's unfortunate that every other taxing authority in Anoka County is increasing their taxes, but that is the nature of government. So those are my comments. Any other questions or comments from board members? Director DeShane.
Thank you, Zach. Just wanted to maybe add something of how I see sort of the presentation that we just had in light of that, and on your comments as well. As a government entity, we're subject to all the same inflationary increases in cost that the cities and counties are experiencing, and you've noted that all of them have put out significant increases, and they're able to do that, right? School districts are not able to do that. We're not able to say, this is what it costs us to operate our schools, keep the electricity and gas on, transport students, buy supplies like books and papers, and pay for labor costs. And we know that the truth is that our district isn't making widgets, so we can't raise our prices. You outlined that very well. We have funding sources that are not keeping pace with inflation. That was very well articulated and very visible. We can also see that our neighboring districts have faced that same challenge with levy increases, and Anoka-Hennepin has not. And we will not be able to keep up with the neighbors if this continues. And the costs and the cuts that we're doing are real, and they're hard. And it still is the reality that if we don't have a good, strong system with fair pay and opportunities for students, we're going to lose way more students than just those that are not being born. So I think, I looked at some of the numbers too, and it's startling to me that the expectations placed on public education for what we're meant to do for students and the achievement that we all want to see come with funding that is negative, like it goes negative in a few different years for the reasons that we've heard. Anoka County, 9.4%. The city of Anoka, 8.5%. Blaine, 9.9%. Coon Rapids, 7.6%. Champlin, 7.9%. Brooklyn Park, 4.5%. Hennepin County, 7.8%. Those are all exceedingly higher than what we're able to do. And the reality is all of those entities and city councils, government agencies are doing that because things cost more. We have to be realistic about that our things cost more. And if we don't choose to go to a referendum option and let our voters tell us what they're able to pay or not and what they want to invest in or not, and they might tell us no. They may say, this is too expensive, we cannot say yes to this, but that's information for us as a board. Withholding that decision from them is going to continue to place us in this situation where we're making budget cut after budget cut after budget cut. And I'm very worried about that.
So a couple of thoughts on that. I do appreciate your comments. The state, just as an independent fact, the state at any time can fund the public school districts to whatever extent that they want. And so as we've already discussed many times at past board meetings, the Democrat trifecta passed a bunch of unfunded mandates that we are now suffering from. So never forget that. The second thing is, so one of the hallmarks of all government is the unbelievably short-sightedness of how it does its business. And so we're facing, crises on multiple fronts, but as we've discussed at multiple board meetings, actually, one of the reasons that we have less funding, as I mentioned, is specifically because people are having less kids. And they're having less kids because the government is quite literally squeezing them dry with all of the money that they're taking from them, from the national level to the state level, all the way down, all the way to the cities and whoever. The government is squeezing the taxpayer dry, and there's nothing left to give at this point. So that's why you have millennials and Gen Zers who are just having less kids, and that actually is impacting our bottom line. So now this is certainly, I think, far more applicable to the state, federal government, but you have to keep that in mind that we would like to see not only increasing households, but increasing students as well. And that means we can't make the cost of living unaffordable for everybody. And then the last thing, this question has often come up about if, we theorize about if the public would pass a referendum or not. The reality is we can say with a high degree of confidence that they would not. And here is why. I can actually give you specific numbers based on Peter Leatherman, Superintendent McIntyre for information on this. He got it to me per just stats that Peter Leatherman gave us. So let's say hypothetically, to just play the scenario out, let's say that I decided to agree with the three of you and go out for a referendum. So you'd still have Director Audette, Director Hochman voting no, so that's two board members opposed, 4 in favor. So we'd go out to the public and we'd ask them if they want to do a referendum, and they'd take a vote on it. When there is one board member that is opposed to a referendum, statistically, the odds of it passing drop by a little over 30%. When there are 2 board members that oppose a referendum, statistically, the odds of it passing drop by about 75%. So there is a greater than 3/4 chance the odds of a referendum passing would be a no, simply because 2 of the 4 board members oppose it. And that's assuming I went ahead and supported one anyways. And the reason that is, and I want to speak to this specifically, is because whether or not you or I or anybody likes it, representative democracy actually does a fairly decent job. The public did put us here for a reason, so they trust us to some extent. I don't think anyone completely trusts any politician, even if they generally agree with them. But the public, it doesn't matter what your views are. They voted for us, they put us here, and they trust our opinions, at least to the extent that we explain them to them. And so when you have multiple board members that say, hey, this is not the time for a referendum, the public is actually going to trust what they say because the public put them here. And that is why you would have a greater than 75% chance of failing if we went out for a referendum. So the proper place to start is not to convince the public, it's to convince the board that the public put here that the district needs a referendum. And then once you have convinced the board, then you go to the public, and then you probably actually will get a referendum that passes. But don't bypass that first step. The first step is convince the board the public put here, and then we go ask the taxpayers for more money. Anybody else have any thoughts or comments? All right, hearing none. We will move on to item 6B, our next portion of our Truth in Taxation public hearing to allow for public testimony. There are no green cards, actually. Oh, there might be one incoming, so. All right, it's Sheila Burby, sorry if I miss, or Shaylee Burbig, I see it over there. Shaylin Burbig.
Hi, co-chairs, board members, superintendent, parents, teachers, and community members. My name is Shaylin Burbig, and I'm a parent in the district. I also got that tax notice that everybody got this year, and I noticed that my taxes for Anoka-Hennepin are $66 less per year. Another friend was $22 less, another friend was $58 less, and I would like to say that I would have rather pay that money and have the positions back that we laid off last year and fund our schools than have a $60 decrease in taxes. What an extraordinary waste. I would rather pay for that. And what I heard at that presentation earlier is that our schools are underfunded. Our special education is underfunded. And that is what I think is short-sighted. That is short-sighted, that we're not funding our special education and that we're not funding our schools so that our students can succeed. That is a failure. And we need to have a referendum so that we can ask the community, because just these 6 people in the room, 7 people in the room, that is not enough to decide. That is not enough to decide. If the question is, do we want it, then let us vote on it. These teachers should not have to do this every 2 years. I want to ask, not you board specifically, but just everybody watching, would you stay in a job if you were making suddenly $600 less per month? How much would you stay in that job? Because I don't think that many people would. But these people were called to teach, and they want to teach our kids, and they care about our community, and our community needs them to care and educate our kids.
All right, with that, I do not see any other green cards, so we will keep moving on to our next part, item 6C, final tax certification for taxes payable in 2026. Ms. Vargas?
Good evening, Chair Arco, Superintendent McIntyre, members of the board. So in Appendix C1 is the proposed pay 2026 tax levy to be certified in the amount of $135,566,609.36. So I have this for your approval tonight.
All right, is there a motion to approve the final tax certification for taxes payable in 2026 as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Director Simon.
Second.
Thank you, Director Langenfeld. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, will all those in favor say aye? Aye. Any opposed, say nay. 6 in favor and 0 opposed, the final tax certification for taxes payable in 2026 is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vargas. All right, members, the next item on our agenda is item 7, the consent agenda. As normal, members can remove items for separate consideration and discussion if that's their desire. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you again, Director Simon. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you, Director Audette. Is there any discussion? I have just one comment to make. On the consent agenda, there is make sure I see that correctly. We had discussed an AI course last time, and so we did not vote on that last time. Since then, I appreciate Superintendent McIntyre and his team got the board some additional details. I do actually see the value in the class, so I am happy to vote for it this time around. So that's all I have to say. Is there any other discussion? All right. Hearing none, will all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. With 6 in favor and 0 opposed, our consent agenda is approved. All right, our next agenda item is item 8, the communications, delegations, and petitions section of our meeting. This is the time for community members to provide input directly to the school board about issues that fall within the school board's authority. We plan this agenda item for 15 minutes. Our policy allows for community members to speak up for up to 5 minutes, but if there are several persons that want to speak, the chair has the discretion to reduce the time to comment to hear from all and also to keep the meeting on schedule. During times of large community input, we have been flexible in allowing the meeting to run late. Tonight, we have 14 cards. So to keep the meeting on time, I'll ask individuals to keep their comments to 2 minutes. As usual, I will ask Co-Chair DeShane to monitor a timer, and if you run over your time, she will ask you to wrap up your comments quickly. We welcome written testimony if you have more to say than time allows. Please complete a yellow card and provide it to Ms. Ball so that we can provide a written follow-up. And a couple of procedural reminders. Our meeting participation procedures are in place to assure open and orderly public comments, as well as to protect the due process and privacy rights of individuals under the law. If speakers use specific names of students, staff, or board members, I will need to interrupt and/or stop the speaker. Please remember to direct your comments to the school board chair. Members of the audience, please listen respectfully. If the board cannot hear speakers, I may reset the timer to allow speakers to be heard. Audience members that disrupt this portion may be asked to leave for the remainder of the meeting. And with all of those disclaimers being stated, the first speaker is Scott Zachman. Welcome to the board.
Good evening, co-chairs, members of the board, and Superintendent McIntyre. My name is Scott Zachman. I've served this district for 21 years. 21 years of showing up early, working beyond duty hours, believing in kids who sometimes don't believe in themselves, and giving every ounce of who I am to our community. I've also given 15 years of Blaine High School as a head girls soccer coach, investing in young athletes, building their confidence, and carrying our district values onto the field year after year. As you know, this year, my district-provided health care went up nearly 18%. I now pay $1,500 every month just to insure my family. I pay another $200 a month for my son's medication, and on top of that, I face a $6,000 out-of-pocket max every year. Last contract cycle, for a brief moment, I felt hope. I finally saw an increase that made me breathe a little easier. And then, months later, it was gone, swallowed by insurance and inflation costs I cannot control. So, I work. I work beyond what is healthy, beyond what is reasonable. I work summers, I train athletes on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights in the winter, and I give up every single Saturday night to bartend. Not for extra spending money, just to make back what we have lost. And I'm not alone. I stand here not just as a teacher, not just as a coach, but as a father and a husband who's doing everything he can to hold things together. And I'm telling you, the burden you are placing on your educators is breaking people. We, your teachers, are the lifeline of this district. We steady kids who come to school carrying things most adults can't or couldn't handle. We give energy we don't always have. We absorb stress we don't always show. And we are the reason classrooms function and students grow. But I cannot draw from a well that is running dry. This is not equitable, it is not sustainable, and it is not a reflection of the value we bring to the district every single day. All we are asking for is a fair, reasonable, and stable contract, one that honors our commitment, our sacrifices, and the countless hours we give to our communities. None of us should have to choose between the work we love and the well-being of our own families.
Please wrap up your comments.
None of us should have to fear whether we can afford to stay in the profession we love. Tonight, I'm asking you to see us, to hear us, to stand with us, and to invest in us. And to make sure the people who hold this great district together are given the stability they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is John Walhopter. Welcome to the board.
Members of the board, Superintendent McIntyre. My name is John Walhopter, and I'm the president of Anoka-Hennepin Education, Minnesota, representing the over 3,000 licensed educators of this district. I am here again to implore you to provide your negotiations team with the authority needed to settle our contract. Last spring, Anoka-Hennepin found a way to maintain affordable health coverage and raises for district administration. The same consideration should be extended to all employees. This fall, we have seen the district's financial situation improve compared to projections last spring. We share in the financial stability of this district. Recruiting and retaining staff is listed as a top district strategic priority. We agree that having the best educators for the students of Anoka-Hennepin should be a priority. One of the best ways to do that is to provide competitive pay and benefits to our employees. For all these reasons, we urge you to settle our contract without asking educators to take a pay cut. We have surveyed our members to gauge their willingness to take a strike vote if necessary to settle our contract. I have copies of those results for you tonight. I can tell you that over 90% of our members said they would vote for a strike to reach a fair contract settlement that reflects the work they do every day for the students of Anoka-Hennepin. Earlier tonight, the AGM Executive Board unanimously approved taking a strike authorization vote by our members. This is not a step we take lightly. A strike is a last resort, something none of us want, but it could be the only way for teachers to show how serious this situation is to us. I want to be very clear. A strike is not inevitable, but the district must act now. You, the board, have the authority to provide your team with the resources necessary to settle this contract.
Please wrap up your remarks.
The members of AGM urge you in the strongest terms possible, provide the resources necessary for a settlement. We stand ready to negotiate anytime, anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Laura Brotland. Welcome to the board.
Thank you. Good evening, co-chairs, board members, and superintendent. My name is Laura Bratland. I am proud to say I have been a teacher for 34 years in Anoka-Hennepin. I am standing here alongside nearly 3,000 educators in this district to share the reality of the financial distress we are faced with, largely due to unprecedented increases in health care. I am fortunate, for now, I was able to switch to my spouse's insurance 3 years ago. I am looking ahead and know I will be on the district's insurance within the next few years. I am standing here speaking out tonight about this because I know countless colleagues who are in financial distress because of the cost of insurance. Many will have to and are leaving this district because they cannot afford to stay. My question is, who will replace us? This is not only about us now, but the future of our district. Colleagues have come to me regarding a career change as they cannot continue to work in a profession they love that no longer pays the bills. I have colleagues who are working all day with students only to head off to another job in the evening or on weekends. This is largely due, again, to the unprecedented increases in the healthcare cost. In my building alone, approximately 40,000, sorry. In my building alone, approximately 40% of our teaching staff are working a second job and extra work to bring in supplemental income to compensate for the loss of income largely due to the increases in healthcare premiums in Anoka-Hennepin. These are good people, the best people, who come to work every day and serve the students of Anoka-Hennepin because they love the work. They love the community, and they love the students. But they should not have to sacrifice their health or financial security to be a teacher here.
Please wrap up your remarks.
Many of us have come to work when we are not feeling the best. Some cannot afford to come to have any breaks from work. Some are already facing several $100s less in paychecks because of these skyrocketing costs. We are facing the impossible choice of settling for some contributions for our health care or a small raise that will be eaten up by the health care costs. This is not sustainable, this is not fair, and it's not what the educators
Please conclude your remarks.
and students of Anoka-Hennepin deserve. On behalf of the nearly 3,000 educators in this district, I ask you to do the right thing. and widen the financial parameters to settle a fair, competitive contract. Your employees and students deserve this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Lois M. Zach. Welcome to the board.
Thank you. Superintendent McIntyre and members of the school board. My name is Lois Zach. I'm in my 37th year working as a speech-language pathologist and 30th year supporting students here in Anoka-Hennepin. In my current role on the special education evaluation team, I work in schools district-wide. This gives me a clear window into the daily realities our educators face. From my hardworking colleagues on the evaluation team to incredible educators across the district, I see dedicated, talented professionals pouring their energy, skill, and hearts into their students, often under challenging circumstances. The landscape today is very different from when I began here 30 years ago. Student needs have grown significantly. Educators are expected to manage more responsibilities, increasingly complex behaviors, and at times high-risk situations. In recent years, we've also faced chronic staffing shortages. Now add to this the difficult truth. This school year, many educators have in effect taken a pay cut of hundreds of dollars each month due to sharply rising insurance costs. Imagine doing more, carrying more, and giving more, yet taking home less to support your own family. This is not sustainable, and frankly, it's not right. If the district is truly committed to recruiting and retaining highly trained, highly effective educators, then offering a competitive and fair benefits package must be top priority, not an afterthought. Compensation and benefits are not luxuries. They are an essential part of valuing and keeping the very people who make this district strong. Please provide your negotiating team with the financial authority needed to reach a fair settlement. In the
Please wrap up your remarks.
In the end, actions will speak louder than words. Our educators, our families, and our students are watching. Let's get this settled.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is TJ Bubalo. Bubalo. Welcome to the board.
Thank you. Members of the board and Superintendent McIntyre, good evening. My name is TJ Bubalo, and I'm a speech-language pathologist with more than 31 years of professional experience. I work on the special education evaluation team, and I have for the last 21 years. I have a master's degree in communication disorders and a certificate of clinical competence and additional continuing education that supports my work with students who have complex communication and learning needs. I'm here to advocate for a contract settlement that aligns with the district's stated priorities, creating safe and welcoming schools, boosting student achievement, and retaining quality staff. For 21 of my 31 years, I have served the students in Anoka-Hennepin. During that time, the numbers of students needing evaluation and support has grown significantly. Their needs have grown more complex, yet staffing for these legally required evaluations have steadily decreased, mostly through positions left unfilled when colleagues have chosen to quit or retire. The results are clear. Dedicated staff are being pushed to deliver high-caliber work with an ever-increasing workload, fewer resources, and now reductions in compensation. The shift from quality to quantity is not sustainable. It affects the accuracy of our evaluations, our ability to collaborate with families, and ultimately the services our students receive. A clear example of this challenge is with our district speech-language pathologists. A first-year SLP in Anoka-Hennepin earns around $58,000, despite the requirement of a master's degree in clinical fellowship. According to ZipRecruiter, entry-level SLPs in the Twin Cities area typically start between $85,000 and $106,000 in the Twin Cities area. An SLP choosing to work in Anoka-Hennepin would need to make the choice to work for roughly half the salary they could possibly make elsewhere. This is not competitive, it's not sustainable, and it is already driving specialists and other educators out of the district. Our educators want to stay, they want to serve our community, and they want to provide high-quality assessments and legally compliant services. But they cannot continue without the district honoring its own commitment to recruit and retain staff. Tonight, I urge the board to support a contract settlement that pays a living wage, aligns with our strategic priorities, and respects professional expertise, and ensures we can continue to deliver high-quality, timely services to our students.
Please wrap up your remarks.
Our students deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Please welcome our next speaker, Christopher Hosey. Jose. Welcome to the board.
Thank you. Good evening, board members, colleagues, and members of the community. Thank you for this opportunity to speak amongst you. I speak not only for myself, but also for my countless educators who also stand behind me. I also stand by you today as a human being, a husband, a father, a provider who is struggling under the weight of a system that asks more of us every year but gives us less in return. This year alone, I've had to make choices no educator or no working professional should ever have to make. I have to ask myself, do I pay this bill on time, or do I buy groceries? Do I eat dinner tonight, or do I stretch what we have so me and my wife and my children do not go without? These are not hypothetical questions. They are lived realities, real moments, real decisions, and real sacrifices. And I am far from alone. Educators across our district are working multiple jobs, tutoring, driving, rideshare apps, etc. However, with all of this being said, our healthcare situation has only magnified this crisis. Premiums have risen, coverage has decreased, deductibles feel impossible to reach, and every year the question becomes, how will we pay for the care of our families? You cannot imagine the stress of sitting at the kitchen table with medical bills on one side and the monthly budget on the other, trying to figure out which of the corner of your life you can afford to cut. Physical health suffers, mental health suffers, our work suffers, and ultimately our children suffer. We are the backbone of this district. We are the ones who show up early, stay late, comfort students through tears, celebrate their victories, and guide them through the challenges no curriculum has ever prepared us for. We are not asking for luxury. We are not asking for extravagant living. We are asking for dignity, and we are asking for the ability for our families with the same compassion and energy and stability we pour into yours every single day. Fair pay is not a reward, it's a necessity. Affordable health care is no joke, and it's not a perk. It is a human right. We are committed to our students. We are committed to this district. Now I'm asking you, please be committed to us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Please welcome Cedar Kilby to the board. Welcome to the board.
Hello there, everyone. My name is Cedar, and I have spoken here a few times before on numerous different topics, but today I want to talk to you about the current contract with teachers for our teachers. I am a student and have been so for 12 years. I am in my senior year of high school. I look to all the educators behind me and in the hallways and even at home watching, and I think, man, I really wish those guys got paid what they needed. I want to go into education because of the things that those teachers have put me through, as well as the ways that they have taught me. They have inspired me to go into education myself. But as it stands, I don't think I would want to work within this district due to contract issues and sometimes the extreme amounts of time that these teachers put in and they are not recognized for. I believe that teachers should be able to live. Some of the other speakers today have shared personal things about how they can't afford to feed their families or pay bills or all sorts of different things. And quite frankly, for someone with, degrees, that shouldn't really be happening. Like a lot of people, they go to college and they're like, I want to make money for the future. I want to be successful and I want to be able to retire. And that should be able to be a reality for our teachers too. So just kind of listen to teachers and what they want. If they want something in their contract, it's for a reason. I mean, I listen to teachers every day. Like, I sit in the classroom for like 7 hours a day and listen to teachers. So maybe sometimes we have to look at our students and think, maybe we should follow their examples in listening to teachers and their wants and their needs. And just let's not have a repeat of previous years, just overall. That will be all.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Diane Schultz. Welcome to the board.
Members of the board and Superintendent McIntyre, my name is Diane Schultz. I'm in my 31st year of teaching, my 3rd year at Anoka-Hennepin. I came here because the salary and the benefits were attractive. I intended to finish my career here and retire from this district. Now I may not be able to stay. I'm facing an $8,000 pay cut. Here's a personal note. I had scheduled back surgery in July, so I wouldn't miss any work. August 3rd, I was admitted to the hospital with a staph infection. I had to be hospitalized, have 2 more surgeries, and was released from the hospital just in time to be in attendance for the first contract day. Stitches in my back, a PICC line in my arm, because I can't afford to go unpaid. My monthly insurance premium have increased by $600 a month for the same plan that I had last year. I qualify for FMLA, but that leave is unpaid, and I'm still responsible for my portion of the health insurance premium, $1,905. Yes, that's $390 more than the district contribution. Like many in this room, I simply can't absorb the increase on top of the rising costs of living. So I come to work limping along, in significant pain, risking further infection because I can't afford not to. It's not good for me, and it's not good for the students. I'm not asking for personal sympathy, thoughts, or prayers. Many of my colleagues face similar situations. What I'm asking is that you recognize that affordable, competitive health insurance is a strategic decision. It directly affects your ability to attract and keep experienced teachers and to maintain a healthy, stable, productive workforce. My colleagues and I, the dedicated educators who work hard and often sacrifice their own health to serve Anoka-Hennepin students, deserve to have the affordable insurance and competitive salaries that will make this district among the state's very best.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Catherine Verichak. Welcome to the board.
Hello, I'm Katie Verichek, and I am here to share not my story, but a colleague who could not be with us tonight. Good evening, esteemed school board members and superintendent. I am Amanda Salmonson. I'm unable to attend this meeting due to family obligations, so my dear colleague Katie Verichek was kind enough to share my comments with you this evening. I have been an educator for over 10 years. This is currently my 3rd year in the Anoka-Hennepin School District, this year at Coon Rapids Middle School. I would like to start by congratulating Casey, Matt, and Jeff on their recent re-elections. I will keep my comments brief, but they do involve math, so hopefully you will forgive me. In my life, I have had many titles. The ones I hold most dear are wife, mother, and teacher. I have the absolute privilege of being the mother of 2 amazing little girls. One is nearly 3 and the other is 6.5 months. The only way I can continue to hold the title of teacher is by having my 2 beautiful girls go to daycare during the day. Now it is math time. My current take-home pay after taxes and benefits is currently $1,708 every 2 weeks. In the same 2 weeks, I spend $1,470 on daycare, which is similar to other centers in my area. Some subtractions and multiplication shows that at the end of the month, I have $476. This amount will be even smaller when daycare costs rise 7% on January 1st. I then have to account for gas it takes to get me to school every day and the payments for student loans that allowed me to be a teacher in the first place. At the end of the day, my family is net negative so that I can keep my cherished title of teacher. This is why I am unable to attend tonight's meeting. If my colleague was not kind enough to share my story with you all, it never would be, since no one else would be able to care for my kids at this time. My sincerest hope is that a contract agreement can be reached soon so that our community of teachers can continue doing what we love and our families can prosper at the same time. Thank you for your time. I wish you all the best and happy holidays. I would like to add one personal note myself. This is my third year teaching, third year in Anoka-Hennepin School District. And even if I am offered tenure, I don't know what would keep me in this district with our current contract. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Michelle Powers. Michelle Powers. Welcome to the board.
Co-chairs, board members, superintendent, parents, teachers, and community members. My name is Michelle Powers, and I've been a teacher at Coon Rapids Middle School for 17 years. Do you know how to boil a frog? You don't drop it in a pot of hot water because it will jump right out. You place it in cool water, water that feels comfortable, even refreshing. Then you slowly turn up the heat. At first, the frog is fine. It swims, it adjusts. It believes it can handle just a little more. That's how teaching has felt in Anoka-Hennepin. 1 degree at a time, the heat rises. Extra responsibilities, larger class sizes, new mandates, student behavior issues, mental health concerns, resulting in more unpaid hours than ever before. We are told to find our why, we push through, and then the heat rises again. And now, this year, our paychecks have dropped dramatically because of insurance hikes. On average, teachers in this district are taking home 22% less than they did last year. We are on track to lose about $5,700 in a single year. Do you know what $5,700 means to a teacher? A University of Minnesota meal plan for a college student. A year of therapy. A used 2014 Ford Fiesta with 83,000 miles. A full year of home utilities. 2 to 3 months of mortgage payments. This financial hardship feels like a slap in the face. Additionally, the public may not realize that Anoka-Hennepin already spends $2,000 less per student than the Minnesota state average. So I'm here tonight to create awareness and to put this on the record. The refusal to offer teachers a fair contract is creating yet another hardship for a workforce already stretched to its breaking point. District leaders, the water is boiling. Your teachers are boiling. You have the power and the responsibility to turn the heat down, to stabilize your staff, to keep good educators in the district, and to show our community that Anoka-Hennepin values the people who show up for its children every single day. We need a fair contract, and we need it now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Barbara Blake. Barbara Blake. Welcome to the board.
Thank you. Co-chairs, members of the school board, superintendent. My name is Barbara Blake, and I have been a teacher for almost 27 years, almost 20 of those being in Anoka-Hennepin. A school board member recently posted on multiple social media sites bragging about the tax levy decrease for Anoka-Hennepin on the Anoka County tax statement. This post was a slap in the face to teachers who were told there's not enough money to get a fair contract. You wouldn't even entertain an option of letting taxpayers vote on new money for the district. My paycheck is over $600 less compared to last year due to increased insurance costs. Teachers are now having to make impossible choices. Which bill can wait? What can I go without? Do I need to get a second job or even a third? Do I need to leave the district? Do I need to leave education? We are not asking to get rich in this contract. We're asking to stop the financial hemorrhaging. We're asking to stop losing money every single month just to keep doing the jobs that we love. We are being asked to choose between health care and salary. Current contract offers would still leave teachers hundreds of dollars a month behind last year's salary. If you truly value education, stop celebrating cuts that hurt people in the classrooms. Start acknowledging the real financial burden teachers are carrying and start fixing the problem. Teachers want a fair and equitable contract that doesn't make us choose between health care and salary. We need a new contract now. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Mike Phillips. Please welcome Mike Phillips to the board. Welcome to the board.
Good evening, co-chairs and members of the board. My name is Mike Phillips. I'm in my 13th year teaching at Champlain Park High School. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of many of my colleagues. You may have noticed that this room and this building are full of teachers tonight. So I thought this would be a good time to update you on how we're doing. I wish I had better news to share. I've been talking with my colleagues, and I'm sad to say we are sick and we are tired. We're sick because the contract you've offered us has fallen well short of fair contributions toward our health care. We're sick because while we once again wait for a contract settlement, we're bearing the entire increase in those healthcare costs. We're sick because the only healthcare plan we can afford is the one with the fewest benefits and the highest deductible, and the only way we can afford it is to not use it. And we're tired. We're tired because you're offering us stagnant wages and diminishing take-home pay. So we're taking on second or third jobs to make ends meet. We're tired because you refuse to engage with the community about how to address the district's needs, placing an ever-growing burden on us to fill the gaps of the services you cut. We're tired because you're telling us that the only solution to your self-imposed problem is to cut teachers and increase class sizes and caseloads, as if 40 freshmen in a room or dozens of students on your caseload weren't already exhausting enough. So, to summarize, we're sick and tired. We're sick and tired of excuses rather than solutions. We're sick and tired of being asked to carry more of the load while taking home less. We're sick and tired of being told we can have fair health care or fair compensation, but definitely not both. And we're sick and tired of having to get this sick and this tired before you'll consider giving us the contract we deserve. I ask that you address these concerns by authorizing your negotiators to offer us the fair contracts we need so we can get back to doing our jobs in a healthy and sustainable way. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Emily Neuarth. Welcome to the board.
Thank you, co-chairs, members of the board, superintendent. My name is Emily Neuharth. I am a parent in Anoka-Hennepin School District. I have a daughter, and I am currently pregnant with my second child, and I am a millennial. It is my understanding. It is my understanding that teachers in our district have been without a contract since June 30th. That is 5 months in which they are not receiving increased pay for their additional experience or education, and due to insurance increases, many of these teachers have lost an additional 22% of their pay. This concerns me because these teachers will be the ones who teach my daughter and my son, and I believe that all children deserve high-quality education. Members of the board have often used the slogan, putting our kids first. One of the biggest influences on the child's school experience is the quality of their teachers. So put our kids' needs first. We have to have the best teachers working with them. Studies have shown that increased pay and the respect that goes with that is associated with improved teacher retention, gains in students' performance, and an increased likelihood of hiring teachers who earn top scores on their education certification exams. Many board members, if not every board member, have received endorsements from teachers during their campaigns. These same teachers who endorsed you and cast their vote for you are the same ones who were receiving no pay increase and yet higher insurance rates. It doesn't matter if your election was a month ago or it's coming up in 2 years. The teachers who have supported you, past and present, are negatively impacted by your inaction.
Some believe that the state should be helping us, and I agree that it is frustrating that the district is receiving less state funds. But instead of waiting around for someone else to solve our problem, you, the board, have the power to bring more funding to our district and to attract and maintain top talent, to keep our teachers healthy, and to put the educational needs of our kids first. I ask you to put in place a levy. At first, I had my own concerns about a levy and the impact, especially to low-income families and the folks like our teachers who are seeing increased living costs. But I learned that a levy would be based on property values, and so the tax would be based on a spectrum. The children in the district, including my son and daughter, are great, and they all deserve the best.
Please wrap up your remarks.
So let's stop waiting for the state and put our words to action. Put our kids first, agree on an adequate contract for our teachers, and at the very least, and think seriously about putting a levy on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our last speaker is Shaylin Burby. Oh, she was the green card? Okay. All right, well, with that, that concludes, with no other comments, our community correspondence section. So our next agenda item is item 9, board calendar and district update. I will hand it over to Superintendent McIntyre.
All right, thank you, Co-Chair Arco. Good evening, members of the board. And tonight, I get the opportunity once again to present some items of interest for the board and our community regarding activities and events that we are proud of in our district. And we do this to celebrate our student, staff, and community members who are contributing to the accomplishment of our mission, just to effectively educate each of our students for success. So to start things off, you saw the talent of our music programs on display earlier this evening. And our first item is to just highlight that our Anoka-Hennepin High School and middle school music programs have been practicing in preparation for many seasonal concerts, which are happening now and will be wrapping up soon. A list of those concerts for school choirs, bands, and orchestras that are hosted throughout the district are posted on our district website. Also, student performers from Anoka High School and Champlain Park High School were featured as part of holiday tree lighting events in the respective cities held over the weekend. The city of Coon Rapids is lighting up its holiday tree in a community event on Saturday, December 13th from 3:30 to 6 near the Coon Rapids Ice Center. Thank you to our students who are involved in being such strong ambassadors for our schools and helping make those events very special for our community members. It's also that time of year for students and families to explore education pathways for next school year. And in addition to events at individual high schools, the career pathways offered through our secondary technical education program, or our STEP program, they're hosting open house events on Monday, December 15th and Monday, January 12th, both from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Career courses available span a wide range of interests, from automotive and aviation to medical careers to law enforcement. Full and part-time schedules are available, and transportation is provided from the student's home high school. Anoka-Hennepin is a leader in career and technical education classes, and the programming offered at STEP provides students options to explore those in-demand career pathways. And board members, you've been hearing about this for some time. We have been sharing over the past few months that the district is updating our district and school websites, and that changeover date is set for December 18th. The updated sites are formatted for ease of use on mobile and desktop devices and include improved language translation and accessibility. The district receives 2.5 million visits per year to our websites, and they are considered a major source of information and transactions for families and community members. This is a required move due to the technology change within our vendor and is being done within existing budget parameters. I do want to take a moment as well to highlight one of our own teachers, Andover High School teacher, Anoka-Hennepin, who was presented with Minnesota's prestigious Mary Diaz Award from the Minnesota Teachers of Secondary Language for 2025 for her advocacy for changes being made to the Minnesota driver's exam. Very unique experience in this 5-year process that originated with problems experienced by her own students that take the exam. Kieran is the 9th recipient of the Mary Diaz Award for Multilingual Learners Advocacy and joins Erin Carey, who teaches with the North Metro Adult Basic Education, or ABE program, as Anoka-Hennepin educators honored for their efforts. In the spirit of service, Karen has donated her $500 award proceeds to the multilingual students at Andover High School to support their needs and development. Co-Chair Arco, that concludes my superintendent's report for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Superintendent McIntyre. And with that, our next agenda item is elementary and secondary education, item 10A, resolution to close specific school sites for non-resident enrollments. Welcome, Michelle Vandentop, Director of Technology and Information Services.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent McIntyre. Tonight, I am here to present the resolution of closing 3 of our sites for the 26-27 school year. This would mean that we'd be asking for these 3 sites to be closed to new applicants for open enrollment and in-district transfer. On December 1 of every school year through January 15th, we have what's called the Enrollment Options Priority Window. What this means for our families is that they can apply to attend a site that is not their attendance area school as an in-district transfer, as well as students from outside of our district can apply for open enrollment. So one thing to consider is prior to this window opening, our district has an enrollment advisory committee that meets to determine which sites are close to capacity. We use the capacity of the site as well as other data points like future enrollments and trends, and we also consider other programming that might be placed at sites based on the school year. So with that being done in this past fall, we're recommending that 3 sites be closed. Now, one thing that is important to share when we're considering this is that how will this impact our currently enrolled families? So our open enrolled students will not be impacted by this change. They will follow the cohort to the next school, even if that school is closed for the 26-27 school year. Another thing to consider is siblings of these students that are attending our schools. So siblings are also a priority when a closed site takes place. Our goal is always to keep our families together at the site. So those are 2 considerations that can be a little wiggle room when we do close sites based on board resolution. So at this time, I would recommend the approval of the request to close Oxbow Creek Elementary, Blaine High School, and Champlain Park High School for the 26-27 school year to open enrollment requests as well as in-district transfer requests.
Thank you for that quick presentation. Any questions or comments from board members? All right, hearing none. Members, before us is a resolution to close specific school sites for non-resident enrollments as presented in Appendix Q. Hearing no request for discussion, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Simon votes aye. Hoekman.
Aye.
Audette.
Aye.
Langenfeld.
Aye.
DeShane.
Aye.
Arco.
Aye. With 6 in favor and 0 opposed, that resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vandentop. Our next agenda item is item 10B, Phase 3 Budget Reduction and Reallocation Process. Welcome again, Superintendent McIntyre and Michelle Vargas, Chief Financial Officer.
Okay, thank you, Co-Chair Arco, and good evening, board members. As Michelle settles in here, we'll move quickly through the presentation as many of the pieces of information have been reviewed previously. So tonight, based on board direction, I bring the final recommendation for the Phase 3 budget reductions and reallocation process. I do want to take a moment to thank board members for working with each other over the past few months, the past few weeks, and the past few days to come to a general agreement on the reductions necessary to get to our target of $8 million that are needed for our budget. So on to the next slide. Since we've covered this information in previous board meetings, I'll move quickly just through a brief review of Phase 1 and 2, and we'll also include a quick overview of the 25-26 budget and reduction target, and then get to that final recommendation. So as discussed at length in previous meetings, Phases 1 and 2, and now Phase 3 of our budget reduction and reallocations That process is happening due to multiple factors coming together at the same time. As we've discussed previously, it's not one thing driving the need for those reductions, and those factors are listed here again. On the next slide here, as we've worked through phases 1, 2, and now 3, the district has considered a number of planning parameters listed here one more time to help shape those recommendations. These have also been discussed in previous meetings, and those are all found in previous board packets, previous board recordings. Just a brief review of Phase 1, that reduction and realignment plan was completed in the spring of 2024 ahead of the Phase 2 efforts, and those Phase 1 reductions included a $5.1 million reduction in realignment in central services, affecting approximately about 50 positions. The district then moved on to Phase 2 reductions and reallocations of approximately $9 million, and those were approved by the board in November of 2024, which reduced approximately 176 positions in central services in the departments listed here in this slide. The details regarding the Phase 1 and 2 reductions and realignments have been provided in multiple board meetings and are again in the supporting materials in the board packet this evening. So for a quick review of our 25-26 budget, Michelle Vargas, our Chief Financial Officer, will cover the highlights.
This feels a little bit repetitive since we just reviewed some of this in our tax levy. Our 26 budget is a $700 million general fund budget. $780 million for all funds. The $700 million is the general fund. The budget reductions that we're talking about are within the general fund. Our other funds listed, that other $80 million is not available to cover the deficit. And as we've said before, the general fund is required to cover a deficit if it were to happen in our food service fund or our community service fund. The next slide is the breakdown of how we spend our budget. So we spent time this summer breaking it down more granular for the board to show where we are spending the budget. And there were more specifics behind this in that 70-page document. But as you can see, our $700 million budget and the areas that it's in, and showing it by federal grants and some of the areas where we have restrictions, being that we have our restricted area of $126 million. We know our federal grants are restricted. There are additional federal grants. We know there's $13 million in total revenue within the special education area. Our strategic investments, our one-time dollars, and special education, although it is not restricted, there are the restrictions on maintenance of effort. The area of the majority of our spending is in our pre-K-12 program. So those are our schools, the expenses that are directly related to them. Our unassigned operations, that's your majority of that's transportation, and then it's your operations of your buildings. So that's your lights and your heat and custodians. Central services in that area is going to be those items that aren't directly costed in the buildings, which would include our central services for finance and all of the district support operations. Our area, our nurses aren't located technically in the buildings the way we code them, so they're also part of that area. And then the unassigned other of $36 million, which the majority of it has to do with our adjusted budget, where when we drop down the target by $7.5 million, that amount's sitting in there and will be part of an amended budget. $10 million transfer, our close to $6 million that we pay in tuition, our subs and sabbaticals, and then that was also all detailed out in the longer document. On the next page, this one's been updated. So as we've been talking about our adjusted target, I've updated the numbers for our current projection for fiscal year 27, which we will start doing very soon again when legislatures come in and we'll start showing the 2 years. So with our updated enrollment, with that $7.5 million that will be part of our amended budget for fiscal year 26, our adjusted revenues and expenditures are operating deficit at $12.3 million in 27. In 27, we don't have that $9.4 million that we've had in strategic investments because the $5 million drops off. So that's the difference between what you've seen in the 9.4. So our net deficit is that $8 million, which has been your target, your updated target. At that point, the unassigned fund balance is $10.1 million prior to making that reduction. So at that point, that is where it is. You make that reduction and we're sitting over 10%. If everything lands the way it does. I mean, there's still a lot of things that are out there with some of our unemployment and those type of things that are, the funding and those that could go away with the one-time money set outside. But with everything out there, if everything goes as planned, that's what you're looking at with the 8 million, showing that $8 million deficit and where fund balance will be for unassigned.
All right, board members, this slide represents the timeline that we have reviewed frequently and used throughout the Phase 3 process. It reflects that the process started last summer and has continued through the fall months with the final recommendation based on board direction now coming to the board tonight for board action. The timeline for this process was designed to ensure that our staffing process can stay on schedule for the hiring season for the 26-27 school year. On our next slide, we've moved through this Phase 3 process with direction from the board, remaining focused on some guiding principles that have really aimed to try to minimize impact on literacy, class size, student behavior, and safety in our schools, while providing as much flexibility as we can at the school level, along with the opportunity to review and redesign and rethink our K-12 instructional coaching and intervention models in the district. So this next slide is the final Phase 3 recommendation, but again, based on that board direction, and it's provided here from the comprehensive list or menu of items that have been reviewed and considered throughout this process at previous meetings. I want to take a moment to thank the leadership and facilitation of our board co-chairs, working with board members to provide direction to bring forward these 5 items on this slide that gets us to that $8 million target. And then finally, before we get into board discussion, with these 8, it's really closer to 8.1 million. That brings our Phase 1, 2, and 3 total to 22.2 million, while working hard to adhere to those budget parameters and key planning efforts throughout Phases 1, 2, and 3. So with that, Co-Chair Arko, I'll turn over to you to facilitate the board discussion and board action. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent McIntyre. Board members, are there any questions or comments for the superintendent? Director Langenfeld?
First and foremost, I want to begin by thanking everyone who has provided input into this budget. It has been a collective, collaborative effort, and it has not been an easy journey because none of these cuts are comfortable or not going to have an impact on our kids in some way, shape, or form. As I was thinking about how to share these comments, I thought about a quote that I used frequently during COVID as it began to send communications out to my staff and to the community. And the quote is from Vince Lombardi, and he talks about the measure of who we are is what we do with what we have. And we were given a current reality that was less than desirable, certainly with $22.1 million to cut. But this budget right now, I think, reflects what we said we were set out to do. We achieved the budget reduction of 8.1. What we have also is a budget that was intended to minimize the impact of reductions on our students and learning. What we have is a budget that is intended to be responsive to what we heard. We did not cut or restrict programs. We did not raise class size. We did not change schedules, so options and choice are still available. The budget is aligned to our district priorities as best as it can, and we expect that our management team will continue that. Safety and behavior, as well as literacy K-12. And the budget is the final phase of this 3-step process, bringing us to what we needed to achieve of $22.2 million in cuts. So that's what we have, and this is what we need to do next. With this successful vote here tonight, through a collaborative effort of everyone here at this table and management, it's time now for management to do the work that they typically do at this time of year. That staffing and those staffing decisions where they look at the data in every school, they review it K-12, and they look at student needs and they put the student at the center, and then they begin the staffing process. That's what leaders do, and that's what they've always done in terms of looking at the future and how they're going to address the budget cuts. In addition, I am confident that they will look at the safety and behavior and literacy and keep those at the center as well and stay within the allotted means provided in this budget. This means we will see some staffing changes, I'm sure, as we move forward at all levels. We know we're going back to some pre-COVID staffing numbers, and there were already some significant additional cuts that were in phase 1 and 2. But I am confident that even with these less than desirable circumstance, that we will be able to continue to move forward as best we can in this current reality. But I would offer, after the previous budget, that we have to really consider how many more reductions we could make, that we cannot say to our public that we will not touch programs, we will not cut class sizes, all of those things we were able to yet to do at this budget level. So I think that's where we're at. We did what we said we were set out to do in terms of targeted priorities, and as a result, we do have a budget that I believe will provide our students, staff, and families the best budget options that we could do based on what we have. Thanks.
Any other thoughts or comments from board members? I guess I'll throw out a comment as well. So kind of echoing many of the sentiments of what Director Langenfeld just said, if we just look at this list of items on the final Phase 3 recommendation, it is very encouraging to see that we're not going to impact classroom size. We were very careful to preserve that, and we have. Something to point out that is also encouraging is the cuts, correct me if I'm wrong here, but they did come down from the initial number we were given in Phase 1. Wasn't it closer to 30 million? So that's kind of just outside of our control based on student enrollment and other things. But so we actually didn't wind up having to cut as much as we thought we would have to. That's encouraging. No programs were impacted, or no removal of existing programs. That's another very good thing. And then two things in particular I want to point out. And this, so again, it's two things are always true. It's never ideal or preferable to cut anything. That's the first thing. And the second thing is everything we spend comes at a cost to the public. So it's always a trade-off. We don't live in a land of ideals where we can have the best of everything, or we can have our cake and eat it too, as the saying goes. So the two things I want to point out in this list that I'm encouraged to see on here are I think, in my opinion, the least impactful to anything we're doing is the central services restructuring, where we're essentially just ending a lease on a building in Coon Rapids that cost us $700,000 a year. And so that is fantastic, because that means we're using our existing facilities more efficiently and better, and we're going to save $700,000 a year going forward. And then another one, this has come up at numerous board meetings, is the discussion of professional development. Of all the things that the district does spend money on, again, there certainly is value in professional development, but the state requires, I think it's 2% of our budget to be spent on essentially teacher PD, which is a staggering amount of money to spend on professional development, in my opinion. So the fact that we were able to find some of that money and pull it aside, we're still going to have plenty for professional development. I think, again, that's a great thing. And just those two items together are $1 million. I don't know if that for the PD is going to be reoccurring, but even certainly the facility is a reoccurring $700,000 a year, and the PD adds another $300,000 up to $1 million. And so, going back to my comments earlier, I'm going to continue to throw this out there. I unfortunately don't expect it to go anywhere, but I am open to doing a referendum, provided you just do what I ask, which is convince the board first that we need one. And it is encouraging to see that these two kind of non-classroom, non-program impacting items are being cut. But things like these are what I suspect we would find more of if we did do zero-based budgeting. And so if or when the rest of the board would like to do that and to actually go through everything with a fine-tooth comb and start from the bottom and build up and show us that everything is being spent efficiently and well, I am happy to support a referendum at that point. But it's kind of the double-edged sword here. I very much appreciate the superintendent and his team for bringing these things forward. I would always prefer to cut, a lease that we have over just about anything else. But at the same time, it then also makes me wonder what other things like that exist that we could be using our money better on. So it's always there's always two components to it. You got to fund the public schools well, and you have to spend the money well. And the second part is not as enticing to talk about or focus on, but it is equally as important as the first part. Just the getting money part, second part is just as important. So I am very happy. I know we haven't voted yet, but I suspect we're going to get a 6-0 vote on this. So even as divided as the board has been on some things, it does seem like we have gotten through these budget cuts with unanimous support every time. So that's encouraging, and I thank my fellow board members for that. Director Simon?
Thanks, Zach. Yeah, I think I'd just like to thank the board too. I think doing the work outside of the meeting and then bringing it back here for transparency for the community is a good model that maybe we can utilize in other things going forward. So I appreciate that. I'd just like to say, and I'd like to ask Corey this also. A lot of these cuts are going to be very, very tough, right? And I think that I'm just going to point out two areas. At our district office, we cut a lot. And I've already heard of some areas where schools are maybe not getting the service they used to get or even the service that they need. So that's one area. And then in these cuts with the extra $8 million, high schools are getting hit really hard. And I agree, we did the best we could do. I agree with that. But I would just like to say, when you're cutting or when you're changing, just like when you add things, you should monitor it, right? I would just ask administration to monitor it. If we find out that we are missing some critical areas because of those cuts, they would be prioritized of where we'd either have to cut somewhere else and build that back or build that back if we get additional funding. So I'd just like to say, now that we're through the cuts, now the monitoring should happen and should be given back to the board, would be my suggestion. Thanks.
If I could follow up on that, to put you on the spot, Superintendent McIntyre, but also if there's no answer, that's totally fine. What has been the most tangible impact or the most tangible impacts at the central office so far from the initial wave of budget cuts that we've done?
I appreciate the question. Thank you. Response time and just the accuracy of information. With fewer staff there, we have fewer people to do the legwork on the various requests, and that cuts across departments. And, we are, I think on a lot of sectors in the state, nervous about what this paid family leave will do and the work that will require to track and monitor. And so we're going to Director Simon's point, be constantly monitoring and collecting that feedback and really making adjustments where we can, because we just don't have depth in certain positions. So if someone is out, we just don't get to plug a substitute in some of the roles there. So we'll do our best to triage, and we'll keep the board up to date on what that impact is. It's not just schools, it's, I think, across many sectors right now, the not knowing how that'll play out. So I think that's probably the things you would hear is just response time, and just because of the lack of the number of people to follow up on the various, demands of the district throughout the different departments. I appreciate you asking.
Any other thoughts or comments from board members? All right, members, before us is the approval of the Phase 3 budget reduction and reallocations process as presented. I would entertain a motion to approve the Phase 3 budget reductions and reallocation process.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Simon. Is there a second? Thank you, Director Langenfeld. Is there any discussion? All right, well, hearing none, will all those in favor say aye? Aye. Any opposed say nay. With 6 in favor and 0 opposed, the Phase 3 budget reduction and reallocations process is approved. Thank you very much. Our next agenda item is labor relations. Item 11A, authorize the 2025 to 27 Child Nutrition Assistance Master Agreement. Welcome, Dr. Cherry, Chief Human Resources Officer.
Good evening, co-chairs, Superintendent McIntyre, members of the board. I'm pleased to announce that our child nutrition assistants, represented by Minnesota School Employee Association, have ratified a new 2-year agreement with the effective dates July 1, 2025 through June 30th of 2027. Thank you to the board, or I'm sorry, thank you to the members of the employee group and also the district bargaining teams for their work in negotiating an updated employment contract. With this tentative agreement, it includes salary improvements in the first year of 80 cents per hour per step, as well as an extra 5 cents per hour on the top step, and an extra 10 cents per hour for employees with 25 years seniority. We've also increased each level of certification pay by 10 cents per hour in the first year. All of this comes without step movement in the first year. In the second year, we were able to provide step movement and an additional 20 cents per hour per step and an extra 5 cents per hour on the top step. Our medical insurance contributions increased $40 per month for employees selecting single coverage and $150 per month for employees selecting family coverage. And in the second year, those district contributions increase again, an additional $95 per month for employees selecting single coverage and $255 per month for employees selecting family coverage. Our dental insurance contribution also increased $10 per month in the second year. These employees will see a uniform allowance increase of $15 per year. They have updated life insurance and retirement benefit language to align with other employee groups. And we also have added break language to the contract. The total compensation package here includes a 5.81% increase, or approximately $328,000 in new money. This contract equals $11.5 million over the course of the 2 years of the contract. And this proposed agreement is within the authority provided by the school board. The agreement is listed in Appendix V of your packet for your review. As a result, I'm seeking approval of the contract as presented.
All right, are there any, or thank you, Dr. Cherry, are there any questions from board members? All right. If not, members, before us is approval of the 2025-2027 Child Nutrition Assistance Master Agreement as presented in Appendix V. I would entertain a motion to approve the 25-27 Child Nutrition Assistance Master Agreement.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Simon. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Director DeShane. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, will all those in favor say aye? Aye. Any opposed say nay. 6 in favor and 0 opposed. That motion is approved. Which brings us to our next agenda item, which is labor relations. Item 11B, to authorize the 2025-27 Principal Assistant Principal Master Agreement. Welcome again, Dr. Cherry, Chief Human Resources Officer.
Thank you. This item is listed in Appendix W of your packet. I'm pleased to announce that our principals and assistant principals, who are represented by the Anoka-Hennepin Elementary and Secondary Principals Association, have ratified a new 2-year agreement with the effective dates July 1, 2025 through June 30th of 2027. Thank you to the members of the principal team and the district bargaining team for their work in negotiating an updated employment contract. This tentative agreement includes step movement both years of the contract and salary schedule improvements in year 1, which included moving off-schedule performance and leadership pay to the schedule and adding $250 to each cell of the schedule, plus an additional $1,450 to the top step for the employees that would not see step movement in year 1. In year 2, it includes dropping the bottom step and adding a new top step to the schedule, as well as adding $250 to each existing cell of the schedule. The flexible benefits account contribution increased $1,226 in year 1 and $440 in year 2. That's the equivalent of 6% in year 1 and 2% in year 2. The total compensation package includes a 6.26% increase or $1.5 million in new money. This contract equals $51.3 million over the course of the 2 years of the contract, and it is within the authority provided by the school board. As a result, I'm seeking approval of the contract as presented.
Thank you again, Dr. Cherry. Are there any questions from board members? All right, if not, members, before us is approval of the 2025-27 Principal Assistant Principal Master Agreement as presented in Appendix W. I would entertain a motion to approve the 25-27 Principal Assistant Principal Master Agreement. Thank you, Director Audette. Is there a second? Thank you, Director Simon. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, will all those in favor say aye? Aye. Any opposed say nay. 6 in favor and 0 opposed. That motion is approved. And then the next item is a labor relations update. Again, item 11C. Welcome again, Dr. Cherry, Chief Human Resources Officer.
Excellent, thank you. This evening, my labor relations update is getting a little bit shorter. Hopefully it'll continue to get shorter each and every month as I come back with these updates. We do provide labor relations updates for the board and the community in alignment with our Policy 209 Negotiations Code of Ethics, which indicates that administration will review the status of negotiations at public school board meetings. Consistent with open meeting law and PELRA, the detailed negotiation discussions are reserved for closed sessions of the school board. An overview of our goals during bargaining include a collaborative effort or a collaborative bargaining process. We focus on finding mutual gains with our employee groups and solving shared problems. We ensure that our agreements are legally sound and operationally manageable with clear and concise contract language. We focus on recruitment and retention of high-quality staff in all of our proposals. And ultimately, we ensure that we are fiscally responsible stewards of our taxpayers' money. We do operate within a fixed budget, and so all changes or updates to contracts ensure that we are evaluating not just the one-year impact on the budget, but the continuing costs on the budget for years to come. When we look at the facts about our budget, for the fiscal year 26, the current year, our general fund salaries and benefits total $539 million. Our salaries and benefits, as you heard earlier in the presentation this evening about our budget, are approximately 82% of our general fund. When we're looking at what's included in our FY26 budget, it does include a 2.5% increase overall in salaries and a 5% increase in benefits. Our employee groups in the school district, we have 18 employee groups. 5 of those are non-bargaining or unaffiliated groups, and 13 are collective bargaining groups. 5 of those have current 2025 through 2027 master agreements. We do have 4 that are considered in the off year. They have master agreements for the 2024 through 2026 term. And we still have 4 bargaining groups that are operating under a master agreement from 2023 through 2025. Those are the 4 groups that I'll provide additional detail about next. The first of those 4 is our school office supervisors. I'm happy to report that this group did reach a tentative agreement when we met last week. They anticipate that they will be working with their members to ratify that tentative agreement in the coming couple of weeks. One thing to note about this tentative agreement is, as all of the other agreements that have been made so far, they are within the parameters that have been established by the board. So we are hopeful that we will have a contract coming forward to you at the next business meeting for your authorization. The next group is our teachers. This is our largest bargaining group, includes K-12 teachers as well as ABE, ECFE, and preschool. Our teachers are represented by Anoka-Hennepin Education Minnesota, Local 7007. There are over 3,200 employees in this unit. We have been meeting with this unit since July 11th. From the time period of July 11th through September 11th, we did hold 5 different negotiation meetings. After the meeting on September 11th, the union did file for mediation. Prior to mediation, the groups worked quite diligently on many language item proposals and were having difficulty finding agreement as it related to primarily salary and benefits. October 14th was the date of our first mediation session. We've held 3 of those mediation sessions now. And while we are in mediation, all proposals exchanged are confidential. We anticipate that we will continue to work towards a contract settlement in the near future.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
To the extent that you can, so tonight we heard a lot about health insurance, and the number 600 was thrown out a lot, like a $600 increase. I know we've talked about this at previous board meetings, but what is like the cause of the dramatic increase of the health insurance?
Sure. Our premiums increased overall. The board voted to authorize those premiums when we were before you last May. Our new term for our plan year started in September. Since that time, our employees saw overall across all of the different units about a 22% increase in premiums. The difference between what the district contributes versus what the employee pays out of pocket towards those premiums varies quite drastically depending upon what type of coverage the employee selects. But that's predominantly the heart of the issue there is the premium increases.
And so, like, I know that we voted to approve that, but because there was a dramatic increase in like our interest, what was the root cause of that? Was it just a number of very expensive insurance claims, or like, I think I remember that, is that?
Yes, and a variety of reasons. So the primary reason is medical spend overall, so trends in healthcare expenses have gone up approximately 10%, 9-10% year over year. On top of that, we also had a very difficult year where we had multiple members in our plan with high claims expenses. So we had just overall more claims and more expensive claims overall.
And so then that would have caused like a similar increase, even if we were not self-insured, but sourced it out to a company?
Correct. So you're right, we are self-insured, self-funded, and so what that means is that we are processing our own claims, we collect premiums, we set those premiums, and then we process the claims, the medical claims as they come in. We fund that amount. If we were fully insured, then we would have a company that we would still be paying those premiums to. But essentially, the premiums are based, whether you're self-funded or fully insured, based on your experience, the claim experience, and your pool of members that are in the makeup of how those claims are considered. So our pool, our employees, and the members that they cover had a very bad experience, and the claims just continue to rise year after year.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
Okay, the next two items, or the next two groups that I'd like to provide an update on are still in the beginning phases of negotiations. The first group is our community school programmers and early childhood screeners. These are education support professionals represented by Anoka-Hennepin Education Minnesota's. This group typically will wait to begin negotiating until after our teachers have settled because they are also represented by AHEM. The next group is our special education administrators. They are represented by our Special Education Program Supervisors Association, 15 employees in this group. We are planning to meet for the first time in January. With this group, it's very typical that they wait to begin negotiating until after we have settled with our teachers sometimes, but often our principals. And with that, we will continue to provide regular updates at school board meetings. We are updating our negotiations website. A note about our website is we are in a state of transition, moving to our new website, which should be going live in December 18th. December 18th. So you'll notice that some of the updates that are made on this page are lagging a little bit as we're in that transition period. And so with that, I am open to any other questions or comments from the board.
Thank you very much. Board members, any questions or comments? Director Langenfeld?
Jennifer, could you talk just a little bit about the work of the insurance group that's been meeting, looking more carefully at that, at the experience? And I've been sitting at those meetings learning a great deal, and I think it's very important that our public know that we aren't just, and our staff know that we aren't just hoping this fixes itself, but really looking deeply into it to make sure that we have the very best that we can with the resources we have. And yet at the same time, recognize that the experience of our staff and their needs need to be addressed too. So it's been a couple rough years from what I can tell as well. So just so people have an understanding that this committee is meeting.
Sure. We do have an insurance advisory committee. It's made up of representatives from all of our staff groups, large representation from our largest employee group, being our teachers. And within this group, we do look at our claims, our experience. We just, at our last meeting, we discussed a plan review, so looking at what our experience was over the last year, and all of the different factors that go into what makes up the experience. So the types of claims that are coming in, what we might be thinking about in terms of our plans and our coverage that might help in mitigating costs in the future. Very serious considerations for plan design changes. We have not had plan design changes as we have experienced a need to increase premiums to make up the revenue that we need to pay out our claims. We have not made any substantial plan design changes for a number of years, and whereas other employers look at that year after year to try to keep their premium at a level that they believe is affordable for the employer and for the employee. Plan design changes might be something that looks at what is the deductible, how is that different, what is the maximum out-of-pocket costs that can be paid, what kinds of wellness programs are in place? Are there point solutions to help with certain types of expenditures? Those are all things that this committee is charged with looking at. There is a real appetite for figuring out a way to mitigate those costs so that we don't have to see double-digit increases in our premiums year after year. So how do we account for that in different ways? Another item that this committee is looking at is our third-party administrator. So currently, we work with Medica to process our claims. This is a year where we're going out for an RFP to bid for the third-party administrator, the administration of those, this group will be looking at those proposals as they come in making recommendations as to not just who our administrator might be in the future, or third-party administrator, but also any plan design changes that might be necessary.
Any other comments from board members? All right, well, thank you very much for the update, Dr. Cherry.
Thank you.
All right, we are nearing our last board agenda item, item 12, board correspondence and communication. Members, this is your opportunity to share happenings in your community, report on committee assignments, or other items of interest. Does anyone have anything to share? Director Simon.
Thanks, Zach. I just want to put a plug in for the Anoka-Hennepin Educational Foundation. I'm the board representative on that board. And as times get tough and healthcare insurance increases, donations tend to go down. So I just want to put a plug in for the upcoming North Star celebration, which will be in February. I believe it's February 7th, but don't quote me. Look for more information. Okay. February 7th. So please attend that. And also, if you or you have others who want to do donations, I want to give a quick example of what the foundation does. So recently on November 19th, the foundation, Coon Rapids Middle School Media Center specialist Allison D'Angelo got a grant to bring a local author into Coon Rapids Middle School in the Media Center. That author did two talking engagements. One was with the Battle of the Books members, which was quite a few kids. I would guess there were 50 to 70 kids in the Battle of the Books there, talking about the process of becoming an author and how that process goes down to trying to find an agent and publishing books and everything like that, and about her books also, which some of them are in the Battle of the Books. And then also, they also met with an additional 70 students that signed up that were interested in visiting with an author. Every student got one of the author's books signed and autographed, and the feedback was amazing. First of all, Coon Rapids Middle School showed up and did amazing. The kids were great. They were energetic, which in a good way. Asked a lot of questions, very engaged, and that author was just wonderful. And then I heard feedback from Allison, who, by the way, if you get into Coon Rapids Middle, stop in the Media Center, check out what she's doing in there. She's a first-year Media Center person. She is amazing, and you will love talking to her, and you'll love her library. But I got feedback from her after that the kids were going up to teachers and saying, "Oh my gosh, I met a celebrity. Look at, I have an autograph from an author, and now I want to become an author." So helping with our strategic priority of reading and getting kids interested in books. So that's one example of what the foundation does with its donations. Thanks.
Director Langenfeld.
Thanks. And you forgot to mention that she shared she was rejected 71 times. And she had the kids guess how many times she was going to be, how many times she went through that process. So Dr. Cherry gave my update on insurance, my committee attending there. One thing I did attend was with the AMSD, was the AMSD conference in Brightworks, and our Anoka-Hennepin team, Superintendent McIntyre, Dr. Gustafson, and Dr. Ziegler, and Deputy Superintendent Constantine did a presentation that was very well received it was called Genius at Work, but it's the work that the central office has been engaging in to really define a better way to understand their own talents and gifts and to work through frustrations and priorities to really get the best results. It was a very well-received presentation as well, one of the breakout sessions. And you probably have many things that I could go on and on about that. It was a very good presentation. I think the other thing within that particular conference, they had a very impactful literacy breakout session around the implementation of the READ Act and the action steps and really focusing in on the tools needed and really talking about very deeply about the change model and the change process. This is not an easy lift. It's been a difficult lift, just even going through this change. And so to have people and support in place, they talked about the role of the coach, but they talked about how humbling it's been for the coaches going in because they want teachers to be able to feel comfortable and confident making the significant changes they need as they adopt the new way of teaching with the science of reading. It was really inspirational, and I think the other piece is they kept going back to the change model that they were using to bring people along and making sure that this first time out, when you unroll a curriculum, they're doing it with fidelity and taking their time and breathing and going forward again. And I'm sure that as we get an update soon, I hope we will hear that kind of work that's underway. It is a heavy, heavy lift. So thanking everybody involved in our district who is picking up that work right now and really working hard. I'm hearing they're loving it, but it's exhausting. It's kind of a two-prong situation. I wanted to give a big shout out to, there are so many schools doing so many great things right now. I had the privilege to attend the Adams Elementary Fall Extravaganza, and that's a night when all students come together with their families, and the teachers are in full force and the PTOs are there to support them. And they had this time a naturalist and snake, which was a very popular thing, but they were also lots of games and things, and it was really interesting. One of the most successful areas was the Lego room. Okay, and some of the kids really were enjoying that, and they had all different sizes of Legos, and they were building things together. And what I love when I watch that is you see such great parent and child interaction, and teachers being the experts in the room. It's very, very, very important to have those nights for families. One of the things that I also attended as part of my area and role in serving and supporting the community of Brooklyn Center, they did an entire 3 series nights of Brooklyn civic engagement, and so Brooklyn Park civic engagement. So really getting to know the community in various ways and different levels in terms of the governance pieces, also looking at safety and the opportunities that are there. And what was really important in that is a lot of our students in Champlain Park and Jackson were present to talk about how they felt in the community, and they were asking the leaders how, all sorts of really challenging questions about their safety and how they felt about their community. And then I'm going to go to the delegate assembly because it links into something else, and then I'll let Zach talk more about that because we had quite the weekend with MSBA delegate assembly. 2 things kept coming up at the delegate assembly that I want you to be aware of. One of them was the concept of dual enrollment, or PSEO, and how it's being funded, and different resolutions were coming up. It just so happened that earlier that day, in that same weekend, last Friday, the AMSD also had 2 speakers, and one of them is from the State Department that's focused on dual enrollment and gives a really good update of this working committee, and that's available. And Superintendent McIntyre, I'm sure you have that link. Does everybody get that link? Yeah, and then the other piece that they talked about in that same particular meeting was cell phones at Stillwater. And what they had done, I think the most important thing they did was spend significant time setting up conditions for the change. And so really putting into place a change model and really bringing a lot of the voices to the table and doing all sorts of community outreach and so forth. So it's interesting, and it's a short presentation, but it gives us, I know that's been an issue that we've started down that road, and and much of it actually, when I look at it, is very similar to what we're doing right now. It's what I understand we're doing in our schools that seems to be working. So at that point, the last thing is last Saturday night at Champlain Park High School, it was the 7th annual Hmong New Year. And if you've never been, it was quite the celebration. And our incredible teachers who hosted that, Meng Yang and Miss Her, did a great job of supporting the students, getting them prepared. They were extraordinarily outstanding young adults and students who were sharing their heritage and culture in so many different ways. And the newly elected representative for the area, XP Lee, was there and inspired the students as a person who came to the country as a young person in the country, and told his story as well. The kids were very excited, and the associate principal over there, William Hill, was kind of the introduction and stayed with his small children and participated as well. So lots going on in the district, and I think Superintendent McIntyre characterized it well. The music is alive and well in this district, and quite frankly, what an impressive group that came tonight to all be here on a snowy night to receive that recognition. You could tell they were all in, so and you can find that everywhere across this district.
Director DeShane.
Thank you. And speaking of music, I wore my music sweater for Coon Rapids Marching Band tonight and in honor of all of the winter concerts. Really encourage everybody to look at those seasonal concerts that were mentioned by Superintendent McIntyre. The music is beautiful. It's a great way to go into the winter season. I also wanted to report on a committee assignment. The Community Education Committee met, and this is a chance for us to work with our city partners and county partners to make sure that the offerings in community ed are varied and meet the needs of all of our different cities and communities, and also find ways that we can work on things together, utilize buildings and resources in creative ways that serve everyone in the community, all ages. It's a really excellent committee meeting, and I think the partnerships and just the conversations between all of the city partners and the district are really valuable. Thank you.
Any other comments from board members? Otherwise, I also, over the last month, I got to attend the Jefferson Elementary Veterans Day event, and I thought that was pretty neat. They brought all the students outside and just had them around the flag as they put it on there and raised it. It's just very encouraging to see students taught at such a young age to have appreciation for our veterans. And then also, way to go, Jefferson Elementary again on the math night that they hosted. Got to attend that one as well with my daughter, and we had a good time there. It was well set up, and there was like a raffle at the end. Depending on how many of the events you did, you got points or whatever on your card. And even though we only did so many of them, my daughter actually wound up winning the next day the Hi-Ho Cheerio board game. So very lucky girl, I guess. So again, well done to Jefferson Elementary, and yeah, that's all I got. All right, well, with that, the next item 13, the executive session, will be conducted in closed session to discuss labor negotiations pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.03. To discuss matters with all open groups, the closed session will be held in the Michael Sullivan Room. I will entertain a motion to move to closed session. So moved. Thank you, Director Simon. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Director DeShane. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will all those in favor say aye? Aye. Any opposed, say nay. With 6 in favor and 0 opposed, we will move to executive session in the Michael Sullivan Room. We will take a 5-minute break, and the meeting is recessed at 9:10 p.m.